What's up, my fellow Michiganians, Michiganders, whatever you happen to call yourselves? Professor Pugh back in the house. Now, my lovely friend Jackson, he'll be working on a Penn State preview. You know me, all I do is the game reviews. So, let's get started. Michigan beat Indiana last weekend 31-10, a tale of two halves. And I grade for the whole game, not for the halves. So, all these position grades are a conglomeration of the whole game. Let's get started. Quarterback. I gave J.J. McCarthy a B+, and he's getting incrementally better each week, which is great. You know, Maryland, I gave him a B-. Iowa game, I gave him a B, and today, a B+. So, by that trajectory, he should get an A- next week, hopefully. I thought he did a nice job making all the right reads. You know, had to improvise a couple times. On that touchdown to Cornelius Johnson, the line did not do a great job blocking. Free rusher, but J.J. McCarthy uses his athleticism to roll outside and make an athletic play. That was something special, something that Cade McNamara couldn't do and a lot of other quarterbacks couldn't do. So that's what really separates J.J. McCarthy from any quarterback Michigan has had really since, I would say, maybe even Denard Robinson, if we're being honest. Or I'll say Devin Gardner before, you know, his offensive line broke down. J.J. McCarthy is a special talent, and that's obvious. Now, why I couldn't give him an A? Two throws in particular. Number one, Ronnie Bell stole an interception from that Indiana defender. So really that should have been JJ's first career interception. That was not a good throw. A good decision, but a poor throw. Usually he's better with accuracy, and I think he did a better job as the game went on making accurate throws. But that one could have been ugly. And then number two, let's get to the actual interception. So I will say this. J.J. McCarthy makes the right pre-snap read. The problem is it wasn't there and he didn't make the adjustment. So Michigan's down in the red zone up 17-10. Indiana decides to go with a cover two. So they have their two safeties playing in the corners of the end zone. So the deep middle of the field should be wide open. And then next thing you know, you got Ronnie Bell one-on-one with a linebacker. Absolutely. That should be your first read. I love that matchup, and I'm glad that we were able to get that matchup. The problem is, though, J.J. McCarthy didn't go to his other options when it wasn't open. So Ronnie Bell didn't quite beat the linebacker, and there were other receivers open. You know, Cornelius Johnson had a nice little hitch route that was wide open on the sideline. You know, it's second down and 8, too. No need to force a throw there. You know, I think J.J. was too caught up in making that first read, and then he delivered a poor throw. So that's just a learning curve for a guy that's playing big-time college football, and yet again, the pre-snap read was correct. It was the fact that he didn't look at his other options. So, learning moment for him. Otherwise, faced a poor secondary, did his job throwing for over 300 yards. Can't knock him for that. Next up, we got the running backs, and I gave these guys an A-. So, a majority of that grade comes from Blake Corum basically getting 50 yards by himself, breaking away from four Hoosiers, getting a 50-yard gain. That's the kind of special player Blake Corum is. Now, I couldn't quite give this group an A. Two reasons. Number one, a couple of times when Michigan ran the wedge play, I thought Blake Corum could have gotten more yards than he did. Instead, he runs right into the back of Olu and falls straight down. He could have gotten 4 or 5 yards on that play, but instead he runs right into the back of his center, falls straight down, and then next thing you know, it's second down and long. So that's the thing I notice about Blake Corum. Sometimes I just want to see him lower his shoulders and just pick up the yards, you know. Quit trying to make dancy dance moves. When you run right up the middle, you're just trying to get 4 or 5 yards, maybe 6. Sometimes you can break it, but on that wedge concept, you know, you just lower your head and get those yards. Donovan Edwards also missed a hole early in the game. He's going to have to learn later on in his career that sometimes you have to wait for the blocks to set up. You can't just run, you know, to your predestined hole. Otherwise, though, this group did a great job not fumbling the football. That's a big plus. So I got to put him on the right half of the A-B pendulum. Next up, we got the tight ends. And this grade might come as a surprise to some of you because Luke Schoonmaker had another big game catching the football. You know, he had that touchdown. That was great. But I gave these guys a B, and I did take the receiving into account. As good as Schoonmaker was at catching the ball, his blocking was absolutely abysmal this weekend. And same with Hoingford, too. It was really disappointing to see because those two guys usually are great blockers. But I noticed Schoonmaker missing blocks on the edge all day long, And on that 4th and 1, Hoingford got blown back. That wasn't good. Hopefully this was just a setback, because these guys usually are much better blockers, and they're going to have to be this weekend. Penn State's going to send some blitzes. We're going to have to be ready to pick it up, and they have a good defensive line. So need to get our big boy pants on, get back on track with blocking. That's the big thing. All right, next up we got the offensive line, and usually this is a group that I give very high marks. Not this game. I can't knock them too much because they did not give up a sack, and statistically we ran the football well. But the film suggests that the offensive line actually had one of its worst games of the year, and that was obvious. Even Olu got blown back a couple times, which wasn't good. But really the guy I need to see step up is Carson Barnhart. He had an absolutely terrible game. Got pushed back several times, and then also on a 3rd down and long, he ran up the field instead of helping out with pass protection, and as a result, JJ's rushed and makes a very poor throw to A.J. Henning. Whereas if Barnhart just sticks where he's supposed to be, it's almost like he didn't know if it was a pass or a run. So he had a rough game. I believe he's better than the way he played, but that's what I'd say about the offensive line as a whole. Usually these guys are much better, but they had a bad game. I think we'll bounce back next week. We finally get to face a really good defensive line. So for this unit, which I believe is one of the best offensive lines in the country, I think they're going to be fired up and ready to go. And they're going to get chewed out from Sharon Moore in practice this week and in film. But guys like Olu, Zinter, these guys have all the talent in the world, and I believe they're going to bounce back. All right, next up, wide receiver. I gave these guys the highest grade of any position group on the offensive side. I gave them an A-, and I thought they did a nice job. Faced a bad secondary, but we don't have Roman Wilson. We had plenty of guys step up. Cornelius Johnson is the kind of guy that can run with the ball down the field, which is kind of surprising because you wouldn't expect a 6'4" guy to be able to, be great after the catch. But he's the kind of guy that can do that. And that one touchdown run was a thing of beauty. Ronnie Bell had a big game as usual, 114 yards. A.J. Henning, I know he had one drop, but I'll say this. That was great awareness, understanding where the open spot in the field was, helping J.J. McCarthy improvise. I criticize this group for, the second that their first, route isn't open, the guys kind of stand there. They don't really try to get open. A.J. Henning did a great job getting open in the back of the end zone. Now, he did drop the ball, but I think A.J. Henning's the kind of guy that's going to make a bigger impact as the season goes on. Once J.J. gets more comfortable checking the ball down, A.J. Henning's a great option for that because he was open several times on that short little hitch route. So overall, these guys did a nice job, A-. Offense overall, I gave these guys a B. And I just got to say, it took way too long to make the adjustments we needed to make coaching-wise. So Sharon Moore and Weiss, we need to be throwing the ball on first down a lot more because teams are just loading up the box and it's way too easy for them to know what play is coming. And just like Joel Klatt said as well, the passing game just seems a little bit stale. It's got to be better. But the good thing is, eventually we started to understand that when we throw on first down, we also help our running game as well. This was the kind of game where we needed the passing game to set up the running game. And this game against Penn State's going to be the exact same because their front seven is very stout. Their secondary is not quite as good. So that's the key thing. We're going to need to keep the teams guessing on first down. We can't keep running it against loaded boxes because otherwise it's going to be very mediocre results. But nice job making that adjustment late. Eventually we were able to run the ball after, Indiana couldn't commit 8 guys to the box. So I got to give them credit for making the adjustment. We did score 31. That was good. All right, let's get to the defensive side of the ball. And to start off, we got our unit of the week, defensive tackle. Congratulations. You guys did a phenomenal job. I was tempted to give this to the defensive end group, but I think you guys deserve a lot of recognition for the job you did. You've done this whole season and the way you just completely dominated that game on Saturday. I'll say this, Mazi Smith is something special. Indiana could not run the football at all, and much of that was thanks to Mazi Smith shedding blocks, not getting pushed back. He looks like one of the best nose tackles in the Big Ten, straight up. And then the rest of the group as well. Graham, missing someone's name. There was Mason Graham, and then there's Chris Jenkins. Those two guys absolutely kick butt as well. I hope I got everybody's name because everybody's doing a great job on that group. And they're also creating pressure almost every play. It seemed like if Mazi Smith wasn't getting sacks, he was getting close to the quarterback. And that actually helps our defensive ends get more sacks as well. You know, if the quarterback can't step up in the pocket, that should be an easy sack for the defensive end. So these guys did a great job. Indiana averaged just 0.8 yards per rush. That is something spectacular. And it's going to be a big deal coming into next week. You know, Nick Singleton's a great running back. We're going to have to stuff up the holes, and I believe we have the personnel to do it. Next up, defensive end. I gave you guys an A+ as well. Now, I was tempted to give you Unit of the Week, but I wanted to give the defensive tackles, some recognition. The big boys, because oftentimes they don't get enough respect. So you'll get your turn again, just not this week. But otherwise, we know that Mike Morris is an absolute beast. We know that Oki is an absolute beast. By the way, watch that one play where Oki just totally blows over the guard and gets a sack. That was something special. But I'll say this. We also got contribution out of Braden McGregor. He had a sack in the game, and also he was close to getting another sack. I think he's starting to show some improvement and just building up his pass rush moves. I like the idea of lining him up in a 2 technique instead of, in a 4, on all fours. I think that's a better fit for him, because he's the kind of guy that has strong arms, can make a rip move, kind of like an Aiden Hutchinson type build. And obviously Jalen Harrell doing what he does best, getting pressure off the edge. Great job from him. Defensive line was the big reason that we dominated this football game. And, I thought this group was going to be a weak one before the season, obviously losing Hutchinson and Ojabo. But now it looks like one of our strongest groups, and they're doing a phenomenal job. I said in the last video, we just have more guys that can create pressure this year. It's not fully reliant on 2 guys. We have Mazi Smith, we have Braden McGregor, we have Mike Morris, we have Jalen Harrell, we have Abayi Oki, and Mason Graham and Chris Jenkins. All of these guys can create pressure on the quarterback. So it makes it hard to prepare for our defense. Great job by these guys. Next up, we got the linebackers. While I did see some improvement, I still need to see more out of this position group. I think Junior Colson is making some nice improvement. Didn't get beat deep by the tight ends, did a nice job stuffing the run. Khalil Mullings did get 1 pass interference, which was unfortunate, but at the same time, had a good game. The reason I gave these guys a somewhat low grade, though, Michael Barrett, we need you to play better. First touchdown Indiana scores. Barrett is staring in the backfield, and then next thing you know, the running back leaks free, and it's an easy touchdown. And then that tackle attempt was just pathetic. We need more out of the senior. I believe he's a better player than that. And that's just the thing. Next week, Penn State has a great tight end named Brendan Strange. And he's the kind of guy where he gets open, he's stretching it down the field. So we got to make sure, as a linebacking group, that we're not getting caught looking at the daffodils in the backfield or whatever the heck's going on around Sean Clifford's shoe. I don't know. We got to make sure that nothing leaks out of the backfield because that's our main weakness. That's been our weakness for really the past couple of years. Got to get that fixed or else we might be losing this weekend and giving up some points. That simple. But I think this is a talented group, and I'm starting to see Junior Colson look like the kind of guy we recruited. Physical guy, fast, pretty good in coverage. I think this is a group that can continue to get better as the season goes on, but still has a ways to go and might have a matchup disadvantage this weekend against Penn State. Cornerback. This is the most disappointing group the past couple weeks because the first game against Maryland, everybody was excellent. This game, I will say, Will Johnson did a great job making that tackle on that 3rd and short. He's starting to step up and get better every game. Mike Sanders still does what he does, flies all over the field. Jemin Green was absolutely terrific. But I got to say, DJ Turner had his worst game of the year. It almost felt like he was too caught up with trying to jam at the line of scrimmage, and he got his hips turned a few times, got beat deep, and really should have gave up more catches than he actually did. So I believe that this was just a bad game for DJ Turner because I've seen him dominate opponents for a long time. Heck, I saw him have a decent game even against Chris Olave last year. Yes, he gave up some catches, but didn't get beat deep. Didn't give up huge cushion against one of the best receivers in all of college football. So DJ Turner's capable of being, one of the best corners in the Big Ten. But it's the big thing, like we saw with Will Johnson in that one tackle. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in trying to jam guys at the line, but you got to give cushion. Not too much cushion, but about 2 to 3 yards, and then we're going to be able to make some plays. So a learning experience there for DJ Turner. I expect a bounce back week, albeit against Parker Washington, who's a very good wide receiver for Penn State. But hey, like I said, the previews aren't my job. All right, lastly, we got the safety group, and I gave these guys an A-. So our defense in the first half was doing a terrible job getting lined up. Indiana's hurry-up offense was getting us caught off guard. And I'll say this. If Rod Moore was not on this football team, Indiana would have had big plays all day. But Rod Moore, even though he was scrambling to know where to get lined up, he made a bunch of very important tackles. I love him in his rover role, kind of as a cornerback safety hybrid. Really, he's the kind of guy that this team needs when the communication is bad. Are these breakdowns defensively going to be first downs, or are they going to be touchdowns? And thankfully, a lot of them were just first downs, and that helped us hold Indiana to a field goal. That helped us stall out some drives. So Rod Moore deserves a lot of credit for that. And R.J. Moten had a good game as well. Didn't get beat deep in the passing game, but he did miss a tackle on the running back, which unfortunately was one of the only big carries of the game for Indiana. He did slow down the running back, so I will give him that, but he missed the tackle. So I can't quite give this group an A, but overall they've been steady this year, done a nice job. They're going to be very important for the rest of the season once we face more explosive offenses. Yet again, are we going to give up touchdowns, or are we going to give up first downs? Last year we beat Ohio State because we only gave up first downs, and then we were able to stop them in the red zone. So, good job by this group. Keep it going. Defensively, overall, I give these guys a B+. Really a tale of two halves. Second half, we absolutely dominated. Only gave up 21 yards. First half, though, like I said, the communication was terrible. We just didn't seem to know where to get lined up. That can't happen next week. That can't happen when we face the other teams that run hurry up, because teams are going to start doing that. And if we get caught off guard, it doesn't matter who we play. Even a team like Indiana, who were much more talented than, we gave up 10 points in the first half because we didn't know where to line up, and we got caught up watching stuff in the backfield instead of covering tight ends and running backs. Indiana's running backs and tight ends had 11 catches for 71 yards in this game. That's not what you like to see. We got to be better in that regard. But I can't complain too much. We only gave up 10 points, and the pass rush is absolutely dominant. Really, our secondary doesn't have to do too much. Just cover for a few seconds, don't get beat deep, and we're going to get the pressure. We're going to get home. So, and Jesse Minter also has done a great job sending blitzes at the right times. We were able to get a couple of sacks from our linebackers, which was great. So, kudos to the defense. So, pretty solid performance. Oh, wait, I forgot. I have one more grade to give, and I hate being this guy, but the officials, you guys get an F-. And I'm not just saying that as a Michigan fan, I'm saying that just as a observer. For both ways, the officiating was absolutely brutal. The only call they made right was the pick play for Indiana's near touchdown and Michigan's touchdown. Otherwise, look, the least I can ask you to do is not try to take over the game. I understand some calls are close, pass interference. That stuff can be ticky-tacky. But the unsportsmanlike conducts, that's you trying to take over the game. And I'll tell you what, if you're Kevin Warren, I would think about not letting these guys officiate another game for a while. Because fact is, there were no unsportsmanlikes from what I saw. Jalen Harold doing that tear wipe or whatever. You can't call that. You got to let the guy celebrate a little bit. And then the Indiana guy poking the ball out of bounds when our guy caught it, that's not a flag. Just, these guys did a terrible, terrible job today, and it's got to be better. Kevin Warren, that needs to be addressed. So, I hate to be that guy, but I had to do it this week. If Joel Klatt can complain about the officials, so can I. Thankfully, it didn't impact the outcome of this game, but it kept Indiana in the game longer than it should have, and also screwed them over with some unnecessary calls. All right, so overall, great second half. Got to come out firing in the first half next week on both sides of the ball. Come out mentally ready, and also come out ready to be lined up on defense. Can't have those breakdowns, or otherwise some of those first downs could be touchdowns, with Strange and Parker Washington and some of their other explosive playmakers. Got to get better. But for now, we're 6-0. I'm happy about that. And my friend Jackson will get the preview out pretty soon. So thank you all for watching. Go Blue, and you all have a good rest of your night.